Why are we forcing people to do menial jobs because we don't want their livelihoods to be threatened by automation? Why don't we let the bots take over and allow these people to be artists or whatever they actually want to do and pay them a livable wage for that instead? Actually, this happened 25 years ago in many large back offices. Before the internet, you sent forms in. And they, many thousands, entered your data from forms into a system. You do that today through the net. Thousands were displaced. And they attritioned off the workplace. Many other people were displaced by automatic processes that do things people did. When I started programming in the early 1980s, I was told I would soon be obsolete because of 4GL and code generation. I adapted and was someone who fixed the code generator made. There's always a cool new technology that will change everything only to be a small improvement. My job can't be automated. People also aren't forced to do anything by anyone except themselves. Everybody is not a victim. People work in jobs that they get paid a wage for. If the wage they are offered is not to their liking, they can refuse the job. People have a right to leave a job for one with better pay or benefits. People have the ability to do whatever they want to do whenever they want to do it. Life is full of choices. Again, nobody is forcing anyone to do menial jobs. Menial jobs need to be done. A wage is offered for said menial job. A person responds and says that they will do it. This is how people get paid for doing menial jobs. What is a red flag that you are in a bad restaurant? The chef's name is TooAfraidToAsk. You see a cockroach stumble out of the kitchen, clutching his stomach and wincing in agony before keeling over dead at your feet. To get through the front door, you have to cross a line of rats picketing for more sanitary conditions. Your waiter introduces himself as Salmonella. I've eaten at rat holes with amazing food and had terrible food at nice steakhouses. Both can have people cooking for minimum wage and bad management. If it's a small ethnic restaurant and you see kids doing homework at one of the tables, try the food. It's always good. In university I went out with some friends and they decided to go to mid-priced restaurant before we caught a film. I was really broke, so I feigned not being hungry to excuse the fact that I couldn't order anything. As we were hanging out, I noticed a cockroach crawl onto the table and quickly scurry out of sight. That is one of the few times I was happy to be poor. If it's a restaurant that tries to act like it's upscale and yet hires a bunch of teenagers to work in the kitchen or front of house. Speaking from personal experience as a past server, it's sometimes difficult to tell until you try the food. There's a restaurant in my town that is consistently crowded. Fairly expensive. My wife and I went there and waited a few minutes for a table. Restaurant was dirty. Food tasted stale. And my wife happened to walk by the kitchen and see like 6 microwaves on a table heating stuff up. My big red flags are, it is less than 3. 5-star reviews on Google, seriously. Anytime I don't follow this rule I get sick. Or the food is awful. Seeing that very few people have been served. Filth anywhere, if I notice it. Not seeing the server within 10 minutes after being seated. And too many flies. Which actor was truly miscast in a particular role? Paul Rudd is the asshole husband in Night at the Museum. If you watch that movie while imagining that Ben Stiller and Paul Rudd's roles were reversed, it would be so much better. Night at the Museum is secretly a Paul Rudd movie. Edit, the husband wasn't an asshole character. I misremembered. His only crime was too many pagers. Ben Affleck as Daredevil. The script was bad and that can take a lot of the blame. However, Affleck still moves around like his spine is fused, while trying to portray one of the more nimble characters in Marvel. Miss Piggy as Benjamina Gunn in Muppet Treasure Island. They gender swapped the character. Which is fine. But Miss Piggy is far too glamorous to be believed as a maroon castaway. Just being silly here. I think of Marwan Kenzari as Jafar in the new Aladdin. Jafar was a creepy old man and they cast a handsome younger man. He was not at all intimidating. I don't feel they gave him very good lines. Someone early on had made a joke that the poster for the movie looked like a porn parody and I couldn't get that out of my head whenever I saw Jafar. Almost the entire cast of the Last Airbender movie. Edit, leave me alone with that Dragon Ball movie. I'm not watching it and never will. I agree that it could have made a decent movie if it wasn't for M.N. Shyamalan as director. But I found the whole bending and the effects were actually not bad, except firebending that looked awful to me, and I also liked the soundtrack. But compared to the Nickelodeon show it's, well, can't be compared. Edit 2, chill y'all, I never said the earth bending was a masterpiece. I like the water and airbending most. Effects were good, that's all I'm saying. They accidentally say their thoughts out loud? I wish I did sometimes. Like, I know the voices aren't real but they do have some pretty good ideas. Yeah. I have to tell myself to stop. I also occasionally have a conversation out loud in a daydreaming kind of way. Like how I would want a conversation to go on my end. Usually arguments. I've had several co-workers including my boss ask me if I always talk to myself. The answer is yes, I do. All day every day. What's seen as romantic in movies but is actually terrible in practice. Dropping literally everything and everyone for that one guy/girl you met for a week during the course of the movie and everything felt so magical, especially if you cheated with that person, and then the movie ends with you two getting married. Turning up at your best mate's house. With a load of placards under your arm. Pretending you're carol singers and then showing creepy love letters on the placards to his new wife. After stalking her for years. Calling someone's work to ask them out when you don't know them well. Recently I had this happen with a guy I'd seen once. He called my office as a grand romantic gesture to ask me to be his Valentine. It did not have the desired effect. Showing up at someone's wedding and yelling I object. To profess your love for them and then explain why they should marry you instead of whomever they were literally just about to tie the knot with. When a man forces himself onto a woman who is saying no and even fighting him off. I don't think I need to explain why it's a horrible idea in real life. But in movies it's often shown as sexy and seductive, and the woman ends up wanting it. Not taking no for an answer. I'm not leaving until you agree to go out with me. Or just one date. And then I'll leave you alone. And the like. Creepy. Reminds me of that god-awful movie The Notebook. The main guy manipulates that poor woman into going out with him by threatening to kill himself in front of her, and her date. If I remember correctly. The girl I saw it with at the time thought it was so romantic to be pursued like that. When really it was just manipulative stalking. The ways they try to justify a girl cheating. Like it's almost never that the girl breaks up with a rich asshole boyfriend before kissing the protagonist. And then they do Olympic-level mental gymnastics to still portray her immorally flawless.